We're here for another podcast with Pekka Kallioniemi today, the author of the famous Vatnik soups that probably a lot of our followers have seen on Twitter. Welcome.
Oh, good to be here. Thank you.
So you have been revealing various types of Russian influence peddlers, misinformationists, and other types of, info warriors, you could say, that serve the Russian war machine. How did you start with this project?
So, my background is in social media research. For the longest time, I was speaking against being on social media platforms because in many ways, I feel like can be a harmful thing in excess. But then when the war started, I decided, okay, I have to be on Twitter because that's the breaking news kind of platform where you get the latest stuff on basically everything. I created an account. Nobody really cared. I went for unnoticed for a very long time. Maybe my cousins followed me or something. But then in October, at the beginning of October, I realized that I have been having same conversations with the same people over and over again about what's going on in Ukraine, what are the, for example, causes of the war in Ukraine, and I was wondering who are these people who are the original sources of these narratives. And I started writing about prominent Finnish pro-Kremlin propagandists. The first ever Vatnik soup, it wasn't called that back then, but it was like this expose. Was about Finnish propagandist who lives in Donetsk, I think, Janus Putkonen, who has a long history of peddling misinformation, disinformation for the Kremlin, and there's proof for that. So he's actually paid by the Kremlin. And at that point I had 80 followers, so basically nobody followed me, but somehow it resonated with people.
And this was October 2022?
Yes. So at the beginning of October. It got quite a few likes and impressions and so on. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do it again the next day, introducing another Finnish propagandist. But at that time, I didn't really think that it would become this kind of long series. I was just doing it because it resonated with people. And then somebody suggested to me that I should also focus on international figures because there are so many. So maybe a week after that, I wrote my first international Vatnik soup.
Who was that?
Partisan girl, Syrian girl.
Oh, sure.
Maram Susli, I think is her name. And from that, it started like slowly growing, actually quite quickly, in a sense that I had 80 followers and soon I had thousands. But then probably Patriarch Kirill was the first kind of. So there's usually somebody who kind of it really skyrockets the following. So Patriarch Kirill was probably because
the KGB agent in charge of the Russian Orthodox Church.
Exactly, and also the
with his
the
famous,
person,
very expensive watches.
Yes, and also the smuggling. Well, not smuggling, but selling all the tobacco during the 90s in Russia. So that's how he became so rich.
A man of God.
Exactly, yes. But anyway, that's probably one of the first ones that kind of skyrocketed the popularity.
How would you say that the Twitter platform has developed over the years when it comes to information warfare?
The thing about fighting usually disinformation, the problem is that it's so immediate. So you have this breaking news. People share always, if they see something big happening, they share it without actually checking what's going on.
You want to be the first one.
Exactly. You want to break that. You want to be the one who breaks the news because that gets the likes, the shares. You get the engagement. You get this, the dopamine rush. So you want to be the first one. And that's kind of, in terms of disinformation, it's extremely harmful. So we can take maybe a couple of examples here. So one of them was the air defense missiles from Ukraine landing in Poland, and people were immediately saying that it was a Russian rocket landing in Poland, and this was probably during the evening, and then throughout the night it's Russian. So we had this Article 5, and then
yes.
it turned out to be Ukrainian air defense missile. So, and another example is the alleged bombing of the hospital or the parking lot.
Yes,
in
very recent case from Gaza.
Yes. So immediately people were like, okay, the casualty numbers coming from Hamas.
Or the Gaza Health Ministry, as many sources call them.
Yes. So 500 casualties. And then when we actually look at what happened, the open source intelligence information, like all this data coming in, so there is any fragments of a missile. It's actually in the parking lot, and some of the cars were destroyed, and that's basically it.
What is interesting there, though, is that big media like the BBC, I'm not sure, maybe New York Times, but many of the big mainstream media, they also very quickly bought into this Hamas version of events, saying that it was an Israeli strike.
Yeah, so they took the narrative that was basically, well, I don't know if it was fed to them, but it's provided to them by the administrators from the Gaza.
It felt like it went Hamas, social media, mainstream media.
Yeah,
this was the order. Yeah.
So, and then it was actually up to the open source intelligence people to kind of look into the matter and realize that this is not what it seems. And they in this sense, they didn't wait for it to develop. You usually have to wait a while for the story to develop, but you want the engagement, you want the clicks. That's one of the worst things in social media, in my opinion.
And it looks like mainstream media is trying to not be left behind, so they also tend to start getting into this, that whatever is trending on social media right now, we will write about it, and worst case, later we will make a retraction and say we're sorry, but we need to get the story out because we need to compete with social media.
Yeah, and that's what I've noticed in Finnish media is that they change headlines every now and then. So I don't know, it could be also related to engagement, so what kind of headline gets the clicks, but sometimes they are updating these quite frequently, like what the headline says, because that's basically what we make the decision based on that, like do we click on it or not.
Returning to these Vatnik soups, initially, where did the name come from?
It was suggested to me by a user who doesn't exist anymore. And he just sent me a message like, you should call it like a Vatnik soup, I think would be a nice name. And it's a good name.
Yeah,
it is a good name.
It caught on. It definitely caught on. And if we look at these Vatnik soups, we have a number of... How many in total do you think there might be now?
235 maybe, maybe a bit more.
Yeah. And some of them have been really like breaking because, for example, like Kim.com is somebody that everybody knew who he was. Maybe they didn't know exactly what he had said previously, but they knew his identity. But some of these were anonymous accounts that previously we didn't know who was behind them, who was writing them. But you managed to find out who they were. How does that process look like of finding out who is behind an anonymous account?
It involves some procedures I don't want to go through here.
Naturally.
But basically it's open source intelligence still, like databases, this kind of stuff. So
digging into internet history.
Yes. So yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that cannot be removed from once it goes online. It's very difficult to take out.
Wayback Machine is always alive.
Yeah. I mean, so it involves a lot of that. But also, well, there are other techniques to make. But so I have a team, or I'm part of a team. I don't have a team called the Intelligence Agency, where we kind of do these investigations. So there are very capable people there. I'm more of the megaphone. I put the information out there, and hopefully it gets noticed. Sometimes it does. Often it does. So, for example, in case of Donbass Devushka,
yes,
who claimed to be a poor woman in Lugansk, with the Russian in Luhansk, of course, but and she was collecting money, like donating money to charities in Donetsk and Luhansk and these areas. And basically, she was a woman from New Jersey who faked poorly a Russian accent.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, "Is this for real? Like, what's this accent? Like, it's New Jersey and Russian mixed up together?" And it was just ridiculous. But yeah, we did a very thorough investigation on her, who turned out to be Sarah Bills from the United States.
Former army employee, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I don't really know about these access levels, but she had access to some like quite high level things.
And now lately she has rebranded as part of this collective DD, or what are they called?
DD Geopolitics.
Yes.
I think the DD comes from Donbass Devushka, maybe, but it's growing really fast. But their engagement at the moment is ridiculously low, so they really don't. They are not making any difference basically online. They're trying, but it's nothing like Jackson Hinkle, for example, or.
Yeah.